Everybody's coming out of the corporations right now, so you got this huge line always right around this time. It says 6:18, but really it's 5:18. My clock, I never changed it. But anyways, you're gonna have a bunch of people coming in constantly because it is that time. The corporate rat race time. It's ending. Oh yeah. And for corporations, many corporate jobs, you do need a degree. Recently, there was a news article that said as of 2024, half of the large corporations out there for certain positions, mainly entry level, won't require a bachelor's anymore. But there's other articles coming out that due to the economic downturn, even a bachelor's is now the new high school diploma, GED. A master's is turning into the old bachelor's. So there's plenty of people. There was one person in particular I was looking at who had 2 masters, a bachelor's, and he was still pursuing school. And he had trouble. I mean, applied to hundreds of positions. And at that point, there's also a different aspect to it as well, where if you have a master's, you might be overqualified for certain positions, so you have to actually leave it off. And other positions, you're underqualified because you spent so much time in school, but you didn't have enough work experience. And in his case, he was lacking a little bit of the work experience. It's not like he had non-existent, but it was tough. So there's so many situations where you can be amazing. You have a huge skill set, but no one really knows your full potential, and they won't care because you can't check off that degree mark. Yes, I have a bachelor's. And then the other end of the spectrum, you're very good at assignments and writing essays and papers and all of this, but you have a degree and very little work experience, and you're not able to check off the box because you get past the robots, and then you get into HR's human eyes, and they realize, whoa, we got a couple other better qualified candidates here. Okay, so now there's a long line. My wife wants some shrimp from Culver's, and of course it's lunchtime. It's 5:45. Everybody, well, not lunchtime, dinner time. Everybody's going for it. So it's a rough economy, man. Everywhere you're seeing a bunch of jobs posted, but people know that are working for the actual companies. You have the HR recruiters that are actually coming out and saying this. These postings are there just because of the requirements, and it's all for show. They're not really looking for someone from the outside. Most of these companies, they already got some internal candidates, but they have it out there. So, it checks off the boxes for diversity. And yes, the regulations. We are certainly, wink, wink, looking for somebody from the outside. Not really, but, maybe, just maybe if out of 1,000 candidates, one from the outside actually seems way overqualified and he'll accept this super low pay, then we might consider adding another position, but that's it. So right now it's a cluster, everywhere for people with degrees, without degrees. One thing for certain though, it's not going to be like this forever. So one thing that I am very happy about is, compared to many degrees where you're stuck with massive 5-figure amounts of debt, or potentially even 6-figure amounts of debt for sometimes degrees that aren't worth it, because I'm sorry, but a business degree, it's nice, it's cool, but everybody's going for it. I'm in it. It is all right for the price that I'm paying for it, but it's not all right unless you're going to a top, Harvard Business School or whatever, top Ivy League, or, an Illinois Northwestern or U Chicago or something like that. With that, a lot of companies won't care if it's unless you're looking at the top of the top, the creme de la creme. Nobody cares what school you came from, and whether you have $10,000 of debt or $100,000 of debt, you're still getting paid. Whether it's your first job, if you get there, you're going to get paid, 40, 50, 60,000 entry level, whatever it may be. Maybe you're applying for a marketer or sales or, inside sales rep or HR, or I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with a business degree, right? Well, most of that entry level, it's going to pay a lot less than I'm currently making in car sales. And car sales is also tough. It's tricky. You got a lot of hours, but what's going on right now, we're impacted in car sales. We're impacted in sales in general. I'm looking always on sales forums. There's a lot of people that are freaking out right now. The economy's bad. All jobs are getting impacted by this. I don't have a lot of time, but for people who are working, who want a degree, who want to advance in the future when we get into a better position, I want to be a manager one day. I want to be able to have a little bit more of a stabler income. And one thing for certain is the bachelor's, I want to have that as a stepping stone for potentially a master's later. I'm not sure if it's going to be the right time to get an MBA now. It certainly isn't. But maybe, later on down, 5, 10, 15 years later, it could. Or always, if someone's in a position where maybe they want to change career path, they could use not an MBA, but I mean, you could use that, but a master's in whatever career you're going for. Let's say a master's of accounting, such as what my wife wants. She worked with HR, now she's going into accounting. Or you could go into design or programming or, completely a different industry, human resources, where you have no experience, but this master's gets you there. Yes, right now it's very difficult. There's people that are applying 500 to 1,000 applications. And that's why if you're very strapped for cash and you're working, going to a brick and mortar school is going to be pretty tough. And a lot of people now after COVID, they don't judge. Again, if it's not a top school, they don't care. Many schools, they don't even know. Like initially I got into Arizona State. You wouldn't even know if you were going online or not, because they don't know if you were working in Arizona or not. They don't know if you were living there, unless you specifically have, there's ways to make it seem like you live there, right? Especially when you're looking at remote work. So the reason I didn't go with ASU, though, is the same degree, the exact same degree, both online. I went to WGU. My degree right now, I am 37% done with it. I just finished a very tough class, one that has been taking me 3 months. The two most annoying classes I've taken, one was like managerial accounting, and the next one right after, both in the same format. These two classes, I don't know why they're right next to each other. This is more like business, finance, managerial finance. I don't know. I forgot what it was called, D076, but something to do with finance and capital costs. And there was some really important material in there, I will admit, but there was just a lot of material. It just took way too long. They just threw everything in there. And both these classes, not only did you have this material, but then you had to play around with Excel and formulas and ratios and the DuPont formula, and it's like, oh my goodness, right? Well, anyways, we got that class done. We got 37% completion, and I have this big deadline coming up. With FAFSA, since my income did change to a point where I won't be able to get the Pell Grant, which is free money, essentially. You don't have to pay that back, which is huge. It's a big help for someone in my situation where, yes, the income's higher, but we're also facing massive debt and going through bankruptcy and all that, and I don't want to increase massive amounts of student debt. So that's why I took a cheaper degree. That's why this Pell Grant is huge. And with that, I'm very excited, because when I finish this bachelor's, which should be by the end of next year, we will be able to have at least a greater skill set and greater potential for earnings. That's the big thing, is then that's when the student loans will be due. But there's not a lot. Honestly, it's only a couple thousand right now. And compared to other people's education where, thanks to the Pell Grants, I won't really need a lot. And honestly, it's only a couple thousand because I took out more, because it's at 6%, which is a lot cheaper than any other loan I could have ever gotten approved for, because those loans were at 35%. So of course, why wouldn't I take the 6% to pay off some of the 35%? It makes sense, right? So what happened was, really, I'd have to, after the Pell Grants, pay like $500. That's it for each semester. So like $1,000 after the Pell Grants. But the Pell Grant situation is changing. So this next semester that's starting in March, hopefully that's my last semester, because after that I won't receive the Pell Grant anymore, because the income changed. We will have 2024, 2025 FAFSA. So there's cutoff deadlines and all this stuff. So my end goal is I want to get this bachelor's, and I want to try for a master's program. My wife did get accepted into her master's program. And with WGU, the maximum GPA you can have is 3. So hopefully I can get the 3. And with 3, it's going to be a much greater GPA than I had from high school. That gives me much greater chances to get into other schools. And from that point, with the master's, it should cement, because the bachelor's is kind of like the old high school degree right now. It's a little bit better, but a master's really solidifies in business. Hey, okay, this guy probably knows what he's doing. You could pay him a little bit more, right? And with that, if both, both of the family members in the household will have master's degrees, both should be making six-figure income. Whether it's going to be in car sales and I'm going to be a manager, where that's probably the easiest way to get into the six-figure income for someone like me right now, because you also have to look at years of experience. Or if the economic downturn turns out so bad that, car sales is completely terrible, at least it's a backup plan. And that's the big fear behind it, is what if the economy gets so bad that dealerships and massive auto groups start going bankrupt? And already you have started seeing, maybe not so much dealerships, but certain auto groups, and some of them deserve to go bankrupt. I'm sorry, but there was this group in California and the West Coast where, I forgot what the name of it was. It started with like an S. We in the Midwest have never used it here, but it's similar to like Drive Time and Carvana and all the Vroom and all the other stuff that the stocks went down, except this one went even worse. They just went bankrupt. They didn't have enough money, and with that, they were way overpaying for cars. Similar to Carvana, their business strategy kind of sucked. They were doing a lot of things wrong, similar to Carvana, registration issues and whatnot. So there are certain corporations in the auto industry that kind of deserve to go bankrupt. I'm sorry, but not every business is successful. But with that said, anyways, kind of a little bit of a rant today. With everything, it's just a tough economic downturn right now. There's a lot of jobs out there, but there's few quality jobs. There's a lot of entry-level jobs, but the harder to get jobs, there's a lot of internal recruiting and all this, and they're really just placing it out there. They're looking for people who are well-educated, who have a lot of experience, who are probably a little overqualified. And yes, they're going to be paying you less at the beginning, but going into where we're going right now, there's a lot of fears. What if it gets a lot worse? Then we might be screwed. So those are my thoughts. Anyways, thanks for watching. You have a good one. Take care.